the Sanje Repatan, Shapsudamba, the Brashaba Jikin, what you would follow you up. Lana Mevala, the Menam Jedimba Sanje Junde, the Yavasha Katava, Lacha, Telo, Chodo, Javache. On the Vanyazo, Yadam Jay, Sajin, the Nambandi Moni, Manijikin, the Nashojo, the Yuba Yalacha, Telo. Nanda Goma, Jodo Zama, easy as a given, but Tapajitin, Sumara Meva, Boshi, Kelacha Telo. Senjo dem ba de me da be che se don da ba chen la cha se lo de de che da se ba so ma che nya me che chen che la cha se lo go bo tu che che den ba thang chen yin be de ba bo so na me de ya zo che de yin ye la cha se lo da ba de cha da ba kyo ye ge ne se le de shin che de den da jo jo ba shin jo che la cha se lo the ne the la ya de la ba da la ra de shin ge dan ba yin de de so de yin de la cha se lo ni ma chen ya me cha chen ye ba ke so ba cha ran ge se ni yong so de yin san ge de ba yin Mama Ravi Mameda, Yoma Seva Shuboda, Lota Tindabo, decision of the data, Sunam de Adam Jeseva, you combat to make you get a did. Got another Jivela, yes, a vessel letter, what about the water, I do whatever, so malicious, Sabedo. Sajazo, the language of the Association Lodge, and you got the Tanaji. 大概就是因为从那些都老人家上街都话说上街觉得这个相当的成就不都当你接触些，大概就是因为从那些都老偏见上街这个说 Okay, good morning everyone, greetings to everyone. So last week we all discussed about the we discussed about the intermediate state, which is sometimes called as pardo. So this is a very important topic. Because without understanding the pardo, how we do take rebirth, and then how in what ways can we practice in pardo, all become hidden if we do not understand the nature of the pardo, right? And not only that, since once taken birth, it is the law of the nature and the law of the karma to go through the stages of the and the process of dying, and also that after the when the death takes place, it is not something like we dissipate. It is like it is not that we dissipate into nothingness, or we vanish into thin air, or or we extinguish like the the flame, right? We have to take birth, there's no doubt, there's no question that we do take birth, because why do we need to take birth? This again, we are going to take birth on the basis of the nature of the continuity of the consciousness, the continuity of the mind. The mind never stops. In the ultimate sense, it is the it is the most subtle mind, which is what is called as clear light mind, or what is sometimes it is also called as basic mind. Sometimes it is also called as naked awareness. So this naked awareness, also clear light mind, which continues life after lifetime, life after lifetime. So it is continues uninterruptedly. Right. So So therefore, understanding the Bharata becomes crucial and critical and important. If one were to go through some practice and do some real kind of real practice, some deeper the practice. First, I will try to I will continue with the further discussion, and then I have some one or two questions, so I will try to answer that answer these two questions. So as we know, as we discussed last time, that the pardo, the intermediate state, the pardo state is the stage between the life, the end of the life, and the starting the new life. It is a space. It's a kind of state between after death and starting a new life, right? So everyone, regardless of the nationality, regardless of the faith, regardless of the any other distinct, regardless of any other thing, right? When the so-called the death started, then as we said, things will not disappear, something then continues, something continues. What continues is the intermediate state, or what is called as rebirth. This rebirth started. Now, when we try to talk about the the process of the the dying, the process of the dying, it is very important subject, very important, and especially for those who really looking forward to the very kind of a serious practice, because when we talk about the when we talk about the stages of the death, the process of dying, it is highly related with the highest yoga tantra practice, highest yoga tantra practice. So at least not only that, for most of us it is important to understand what really is the death. So as we go through the process of the stages of the death, so first we have the first they are now this is from the Vajrayana standpoint, highest yoga tantric standpoint. There are 25 gross constituents, gross gross constituents, right, to dissolve. The dissolution of the 25 gross constituents takes place, right? So although I'm not going much into again detail, not too detailed, but detail, the medium detail I will go through, right? So so this kind of the dissolution happens most for what is called as the natural death, the natural death. The dissolution, all this dissolution takes those who have go through the natural death. In the case like the in the cases like accident, the person dying of very very painful experience. This happens very shortly, very in a short period of time. Happens at a very fast pace. Very short duration. It does happen, but in a very short duration. Whereas those who goes through natural death, then this dissolution takes place one after the another. The first, so that is for everybody. Everybody. The first, the the dying person, have the appearance of the appearance of the what is called as the mirage. Then after the mirage, then the appearance of the smoke. Then after the smoke, then the fireflies, right? Fireflies, and then after the body lamp, when in the still body lamp, stillness of the body lamp. So this appearance, the visions, occur for the dying person. Actually, the appearance or the vision of the mirage, the smoke, the fireflies, the stillness of the body lamp, does it really person sees? The person does not see. What really person sees at the mental level. The person see all these things at the mental level. In reality, there is no mirage, there's no smoke. But because of the dissolution, the elements within the body, these appearance now arise, because of dissolution. Right. Then after the butterfly, then after the stillness of the butter lamp, right? Then the person experienced the that the person down the when going through the process of the drying, the mind, we have different levels of the mind. The mind grows more subtle and subtle, more subtle and subtle. So then after that, when the person experienced, the dying person experienced the stillness of the butter lamp, the vision of the butter lamp, the stillness of the vision of the butter lamp. Then there are different types of the more subtle, the more subtle thoughts, what we call as anti-conceptual thoughts, the 18 conceptual thoughts. These, within the 18 conceptual thoughts, they are, the gross and the more subtle one. So that means the 18 conceptual thoughts, begins to dissolve, the gross one. When the gross one begins to dissolve, after which then the subtle conceptual thoughts now begin to, dissolve gradually. Now with the dissolution of those, subtle conceptual thoughts, then after which, then the person has the vision of the vision of the white appearance, the white appearance, the white appearance is like, when we during the autumn, during the autumn night, we still the clear moon, the clear sky, which is totally free from any kind of clouds. We will see the whole sky pervaded by moonlight. We have the vision of that experience. Then after this, then another vision arise. The vision of the vision of the what is called as we call red increase. Red increase means when the again when the sun is about to set, if you try to see the scene, scenario, this scenic view, when the sun is about to set, we have this kind of seeing kind of the reddish color of the sun setting. So we have that vision, and then after which then we have the again we have the vision of what is called as the black near attainment. What it is, why it is called black near attainment is then because then the whole the whole sky is shrouded, enveloped in a thick cloud, cloud, the black darkness of the cloud. So at that point you have total blank, your mind is totally in a blank state, you engulf, enveloped in the darkness. Then after that, then we almost lost the consciousness in conscious state. Then as after we lost the mindfulness, we lost the conscious state. Then after arising from that, then again there's what is called as then we are in the state of what is called as clear light mind. So for the practitioner, for the highest yoga tantra practitioner, these kind of stages become so crucial for practice, extremely important for the practice, because these, the stages makes the practice something really very powerful, and also determines the rebirth. What kind of rebirth one prefers, this really determines, even for the ordinary, we as an ordinary person, of course, we can practice, right? Then in this dissolution, if we have no mindfulness, if you do not practice, then things are appeared as normal, then everything seem as normal, everything seem as something solid, and then we get frightened. Everything really seen as solid, some concrete, solid, the independent, independent, and then we grasp into it. The more we grasp, the more we cling, then the result would be unpleasant. So for the practitioner, for the yogis and for the practitioner, these are the perfect, the perfect, the ideal, opportunity to practice into more, practice more deeply, right? In fact, when the person goes through the process of dying, as I said, the person had the appearance of the, white appearance. White appearance occurs because of the, the white drop, from the crown comes descended, and then when the person has a reddish color, the wisdom of reddish color, then the red drop at the navel goes up, and then you have the vision of the black night attainment, total darkness. That is, these two drops collided at the heart chakra. So that's why you have all this experience, right? Then in the clear light state, down one is in the clear light state. So how far you remain in that clear light state, it differs, it varies, depending on the each individual, But generally speaking, it is a person remain in that clear light state for 3 days, in that clear light state for almost 3 days. But for some, again, as I said, this is for general, it may occur, sometimes the person may, remain in a clear light state for 1 day, who knows, maybe 2 days, maybe 1 week, maybe 10 days, So then, so in that very state, in that clear light state, now, how do we know? How do we understand? How do we know that the person has totally, died? We can determine, we can determine that, when we see the tiny portion of the blood coming from the nose, then, and also coming out like one liquid, released from the lower opening. At that point, the most subtle mind, which is what is called as clear light mind, already left the body. Now, this is what is called as, from the Buddhist perspective, from the highest yoga perspective, the person is totally dead. Now, not a single mind remains in the person's body. Right. So, so although I do not plan to, talk about all these things, but I have to discuss about the, Pardo, when I try to explain the Pardo, at least, I need to, explain this to the Otherwise, just trying to explain roughly won't give you provide you a good understanding. How rebirth takes place, how the Pardo is created, right? So then now as we said now the clear light is at the heart, at the center of the heart. I'm not talking about heart here. The Buddhist talks about the channels, the chakras, So then, the red drop go the purity, and then it comes from the nose, right? And at the same time, then because the clear light mind is enveloped in the drop, when the drop separated, the white drop and red drop stay separated, then the clear light exit from the body. Now, when the clear light mind, when the mind, goes from here, we are going to take a good rebirth, in the form, formless realm, or form realm, or human being, and also the mind also exits from here, lives from here, right? Also, the mind can live from the navel, one's navel, and also if one is going to take the birth in the things like the hell, and then the mind can release from the lower passage. If one is going to take the birth as a hungry ghost, then it lives from the urinary passage. Mind lives. So then, as we discussed, we have Buddhist talks about the Vajrayana talks about the many kinds of winds. So there's a what is called as, sometimes it is called as life supporting wind, a subtle life supporting wind, and sometimes it is called as the wind of the 5 rays of color. The wind of the 5 rays of color, so in the Vajrayana, especially in the highest Yoga, every mind, every mental state, has the mounting wind, mounting wind. So the mind and the wind are of the same nature, because because of the same nature, so when the because what is the function of the mind? The function of the mind is to hold the object, to hold the object, to seize the object, to apprehend the object. This is the function of the mind. This is the function of the mind. Whereas when we talk about the wind, what is the function of the wind? What is the nature of the wind? Nature of the wind is moving, right? Moving. The mind cannot move, because of the support of the wind, the mind now moves. So our mind need to go to the next life. So how do we go? How the mind goes into the next life is because of the support of the wind. So therefore, the mind goes into the next life because of the support of the wind, because wind is the moving nature. As we said, mind only apprehend the object. Wind cannot apprehend the object. The function of the wind is to apprehend. To apprehend the function of the wind is to move, moving nature, right? Moving nature. For example, we talk about oxygen. The oxygen, flows in the body, right? So therefore, the wind and the mind has its different functions, but it is of same entity, same nature. So therefore, it really makes sense. What goes into next life is the mind. Mind goes on in the next life with the help of the support, with the help and the support of the wind, the mounting wind. So therefore, here, now here, with the clear light mind, that when the clear light mind ceased, this clear light mind, the clear light of death, we call, basic mind, in, for example, in the Mahamudra, it's called, the ordinary mind. In the great completeness, in the great, the Dzogchen practice or perfection, the great perfection, practice, this mind is called the naked awareness. Naked awareness, right? So now here, that this is the most the most important, this clear light mind. We do understand in Tibetan Buddhism, there are four schools, the Nyingma, what is, their fundamental view is the great perfection or the great completeness, the Dzogchen, right? And then the Kagyu, Kagyu, they talk about the Mahamudra. The Mahamudra, right? And then Sajja, Sajja talks about the union of the clarity and the union of the clarity and the empty. Path and fruit, teaching. The union of the clarity and the empty. The Gelug called, the ultimate view is, the wisdom of the inseparability of the bliss and emptiness. So all this, whether it's the great completeness view, or whether it is the, Sajja, or whether it's the Mahamudra, or whether it's the union of the clarity and, clarity and the empty, or whether it's the wisdom of inseparable bliss and emptiness. All these four views, all these four schools finally emphasis and focus single pointedly on identifying and recognizing this clear light mind. So this is, once we are able to clear light mind, then here it goes everything. One is in a joyful state. It's beyond concepts, it's beyond words, it's beyond elaboration, complications. This is the final thing to seek, the ultimate, the nature to seek. So therefore, this clear mind, so for the yogis, for the practitioners, this clear mind, when the person is in the clear mind, when the person is in the clear mind, now, at the point of diet, whether the person stay in for 3 days or 1 week, it doesn't matter. Once this clear mind stop, this clear must stop, then the wind, the wind mounting on that clear mind instantly created the Pardo body. Here we are Pardo. Then for the yogi and for the practitioner, the wind, one part of the wind is transformed into the illusory body. So illusory body is the Buddha's Sambhogaya body. You are going to achieve the Sambhogaya body on the basis of that subtle wind, which becomes the illusory body. We have all this potential, infinite potential within us. We really have such an infinite potential, but unfortunately, we don't recognize it. We don't make any attempt to recognize it. Once we are able to recognize it, then the things, begins to unfold by itself. Then many miracles, unimaginable miracles happens. So then, when there's one portion of the, when the clear mind sees the one portion of the life supporting wind, one portion of one life supporting wind transform into the part of the body. Those, now before, one experience all these dissolutions, one experiences dissolution, there are a few signs, for someone, for example, someone who led a, really led a very meaningful life, who really led a dedicated dharma practice. For such a person, the heat, the warmth, the warmth of the body begin to dissolve. For someone who really led a very meaningful life, the warmth and the heat of the body begins to dissolve from the feet, from the bottom. For somebody who led a very negative life, really led an fortunate or non-virtuous life, for such a person, the heat of the body begins to dissolve, begin to gathers from the head, from the top. So as we discussed, it is very important to it's very important to cultivate, to develop a very positive thoughts at the point of dying. A single negative thought determines what kind of rebirth, unfavorable rebirth. For the positive thoughts, with the cultivation of the positive thoughts, it helps to activate the positive karmic seed within our mind stream, so that we are ensured that we take a favorable rebirth the next life. Or if someone has created all the positive karma merit to take a rebirth in the Pure Land, one would be able to take a rebirth in the Pure Land. Finally, with the activation of the pure seed, karmic seed that one has planted, stored while alive, while one is alive. Then, so then one is, pardo, one is in the pardo, So the pardo body usually look like 6 years, the child of 6 years, the size of the pardo body. So as discussed, a lot of hallucinations, the Buddha beings mostly suffers from hallucinations. So therefore we have the Pardo prayer, right? We do the Pardo prayer. It really, helps. And then, yeah. So then, now, in the Pardo, we are also seeking the rebirth. Each week, we try to seek we continue to seek the rebirth in the Pardo, Within 1 week, if we do not get a proper and ideal rebirth, then we die in the Pardo. Again, we take as a rebirth as in the Pardo. Right. Now, for example, how do we take rebirth as a human being? Right. Now, for example, we may be in the human Pardo, right? Human being Pardo. How do we take the rebirth as a human being Pardo? Human being, right? So, to take the birth as human being in the Pardo, first, the Pardo being has certain kind of vision. The Pardo being develop the vision, I mean, I'm talking about someone who is going to take the rebirth as human being again, while somebody is in the human being Pardo. So, usually, generally speaking, to take the rebirth as a human being, we believe, the Vajrayana talks about that, the seed of the father is potent. The seed of the mother is potent. Both of them, the seed are not decayed. Then the further being. Now further being is searching for the rebirth here and there. Continue to search rebirth here and there. Then from the very far away, from the very far away places, the further being, the sees, the human further being sees, the two person who is going to his or her parents in the future. Both of them enjoying some kind of in love making. From the far away, the further being develops the wish, develop a strong, if the further being is going to achieve, is going to become a going to be take the birth as a male, then the further being develop attachment to the mother. If the further being is going to achieve as a the female, then the further being develop a strong attachment to the father. With this kind of thought, further being then gradually try to approach those two person who is doing love making. When the further being arrive at this destination spot, the further being does not see any love making, not seeing any love making. What they see is just a two private part. Just the two private part, and then this further being become infuriated, being upset, angry about seeing this two private part. With this, right? So in order to, so therefore, in order to further being to enter, these two person should have some karmic connection, should have some karmic connection with the further being who is going to be their child, right? So the situation is that there is, on the scene of making love making, number one, father's seed, mother's seed is potent, and then the further beings, hover around, just hovering. In such a situation, then further beings, approach. When the further being approached, and then further being instantly died because of seeing these, two private parts. Then when the further being die, what happened is, now while the father and mother doing love making, then the consciousness, the mind of the further being enters through the father's mouth, enter through the father's mouth, or it enters through the crown of the father. And then when the drop begin to descend, the consciousness come along with the drops, and then with the father's seed and mother's seed, when they join together, further beings consciousness enters into the very center of this drop. That is that is what we believe, one takes a rebirth. There is a child. The child is developed. Right. So this is for the human being, how human being take rebirth. Whereas in the cases like womb birth, this is what we call a womb birth, right? Womb birth. Whereas in the then there is we talk about four kinds of rebirth, four kinds of birth. One birth is moisture, due to when causes conditions come together, when there is enough heat, enough moisture to become the sentient being, right? Now, for example, some you see some germs, some germs and some bacteria, all this, some of them, and even some insect, some worms, these are heat, heat birth. Because when the certain, when the certain heat is needed, when that heat is complete, then the consciousness enters into that. One of the most interesting thing is that, for example, right, as I give this example, I give this very, I use this example usually uh, during hot summer, if you have something, if you have some container, container, very, the weather is very hot, humid, and if you close the lid, then after a while you open, all the food is, all the food has become the, worms. This is not that, the food has become, actually become warm. The heat, the heat becomes, when there is a certain heat to become this food transform into the being warm. So consciousness enters into it. So this is the moisture birth or heat birth. Then we have the egg birth, So the chicken, the hen, some animals, they do the egg birth, And then of course, in the human being, yeah, there was an egg birth. And then we have the fourth birth, which is called as miraculous birth. Miraculous birth, for example, like some, for example, Padmasambhava, uh, the Master Arya Deva, all this birth from the lotus. This is miraculous birth. Or, the Bhardo being, Bhardo being the hell, and then to some extent, some hungry ghosts, they gone through the, the stages, like we human being, 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 9 months, and 10 days. The child in the hell, there is no such stages. Every, path is formed simultaneously. Right. So with this, then it comes with a lot of, uh, so this is how there are different kinds of birth. But in fact, the most ideal for practicing dharma is the human birth. Human birth, which is complete with 8 freedoms and 10 endowments. This is the perfect. The most fortunate, the fortunate, the form to practice the basic, to do the basic teaching, Mahayana practice, the Vajrayana practice, which allows, and especially in the highest yoga tantra, which allows the one to achieve enlightenment in the shortest period of time. As we said now, there are different methods, because in the Bardo, in the once we are in the Bardo, we don't have, to be honest, we don't have that much control. While we are alive, if we do the practice very well, if we do the practice, daily practice, if we have good devotion to the 3 jewels, if we really practice very good dharma, then there will be the occasions where you can really, find that practice highly valuable. That is in the Bharata. Extremely, extremely valuable. So with all this understanding, with all this understanding, therefore they say,
when we have all the external conditions, when we have all the internal conditions, what are the external conditions? External condition is that we have meet with the Buddha's teaching, and especially we have meet with such a teaching which is the union of the sutra and tantra, which is so pure, not polluted. It is stainless. And we also do have internal condition. We do have the internal condition. What kind of internal condition? We have the internal condition, like we have complete with 8 freedom and 10 endowments. So this is the internal conditions. The external condition is you have come to meet with such a purity of the teaching, which is the union of sutra and tantra. And you also have come to meet with, the teacher. You can have your own, the teacher, who who teaches unmistaken path, unmistaken. It is not enough to present the teaching, unmistaken teaching. With unmistaken teaching, then we have unmistaken realization. If we practice, good. So we have external condition and internal conditions. We practice, and then not only in this life, also the most important also is in the, we try our best in this very life. Even though, we may not make that big difference, but still there's a hope, and the hope is again in the Bharata. In the Bharata we can do, right? Of course, there are many practices for the, now this relates to the, now I will answer, this relates also to the question, right? We can help the Pardu beings, but on the part of the Pardu beings, how can the person help himself or herself while in the Pardu? So mostly, Pardu beings, really, due to the, due to the other factors, due to the other factors, because of the clarity, the lucidity nature of the Pardu being's mind, it really, give a lot of impact, positive impact. The more powerful is that we do, right, while we are alive, we dedicate all, the prayers, the pujas, all the good activities for the benefit of the Pardu being. Now, for example, right, for example, how, let us take an example, like, there's a one, there's a one puja called, there's a one, puja, or we better call in the ritual, rite. There's a one ritual or rite called, Jangwa, Jangwa, purification practice. In the purification practice, there are actually this belongs to the, tantric teaching, tantric practice, tantric teaching, it is the tantric teaching, especially it belongs to the, it belongs to the, yoga tantra. Kunrik, we call Kunrik, Kunrik rite. Kunrik is a deity, one deity. It belongs to the Kunrik rite. It's powerful. So in the Kunrik, rite, the ritual, what really involves is, for example, now, like, summoning, the consciousness of the dead person. So therefore, what do we do? I think you may have some experience. When we do the Jangwa, you bring the photo, right? You bring the this is a person's photo. Of course, you can do also the Jangwa for the, living ones. Jhama does not always mean for the dead person. You can also do for the living ones. Right. Now, if we were to do the Jhama practice for the deceased, then what rituals involves it? Then in the Jhama practice for the deceased, it involves, summoning, hooking the, consciousness of the dead person. And we may sometimes wonder, oh, how is it possible, to hook the, person is already died, how can we hook the consciousness of the dead person to the body, dead body? We may wonder. Yes, for someone who is very qualified, to do this ritual, in some cases, the person can, hook the consciousness to the dead person, and dead person can bring back to life. It is not something new. It does happened earlier. For example, like, as I said, we have 12, accounts. As far as I understand, I know 12 or 13 biographies of somebody, someone who, the bring, came back from the Pardo. One of the well-known is, for example, one lady by the name of Lingsa Chuki. Lingsa Chuki and the Nangsa Yubum. Nangsa Yubum, the more popular, the many, it happens in the one area called, the place called, the Nyangde. Zhang region in Tibet is called Nyangde. It really happened. Came back to life, not for 2 or 3 days, but after visiting the Bharto. So yeah, through the rituals, can bring back to life, Then again, even if we were not able to bring back to the life, and then we may wonder, if we are not able to bring back the, the consciousness, summon the consciousness, what is the purpose of the ritual? We may wonder. It is not about whether you are able to, whether the person who does the, does the Jhama practice, whether that person is able to hook the, consciousness or not, it doesn't matter. It is not the main deal. Just visualizing that the person has hooked the consciousness, that matters. It does matter. Sometimes we say, oh, we don't do, because we are not able to do. So that is mistaken. If that is the case, in the Vajrayana practice, not in the Vajrayana practice, in the sutra, sometimes you visualize as Buddha Shakyamuni. When you visualize as Buddha Shakyamuni, does it mean you become Buddha Shakyamuni? No. Similarly, it also works here. But then when you visualize your Buddha Shakyamuni, does it bring benefit to you? Yes. Similarly, when we visualize, then that person's consciousness bring back and hooked and then dissolve into the image, you have the image. It does help tremendously. So this is another very, very important thing, So, and then, in this ritual, it involves purifying, it has three parts, this ritual, it involves it involves specifying and purifying the obstructors. This is number one. Number two is purifying the negativities and negative karma of the deceased. Number two. Number three is purifying the inauspiciousness of the deceased. Now, in the case of the first one, now while we are alive, while the disease is alive, somebody died, when the disease is alive, there are many obstructors for that person. There are many obstructors, like spirit, obstructors. So, they try to create the obstacle to achieving the liberation, to achieving the higher rebirth. Not only that, even after the person dies, these obstructors like spirit, try to harm their families, the relatives. How do we know that these obstructions create the obstacles for the relatives and this? Now, again, this is important to understand. Now, for example, right, in the family, right, somebody passed away, somebody died, and then what they complain is sometimes, oh, I see in the dream, I see the dead person, I see the deceased, with the same cloth, with the same expression, facial expression. The person used to talk, and then say, oh, in the dream I had that person. And then sometimes you say, oh, I hear the voice of that that deceased. Sometimes you also, the people complain, I see nakedly with my eyes the deceased. Right. Now, do that person see the deceased? It is the really deceased, the person they see, oh, he or she saw the deceased, right? This is not the deceased person. This is not the deceased. The person hear the deceased voice. Person is not hearing the deceased voice, actually, not hearing the deceased voice. Right? And the person has the dream, the disease. It is really the disease that the person is dreaming? No, it's not the diseased person. Now, who is this? Then who are that? Now here, these are not the disease, these are spirit. Because the spirit, some of the spirit, some of the spirit, they know each and every detail of you. From the morning up to going to bed, they know clearly, like detailed, right? So this person disguised as a deceased. Now this person, because the person knows each and everything, so they disguise. It's nothing, just a disguise. The spirit disguised as a deceased is coming and talk to you in the dream, because whole of your dream about the having the seeing the this the disease is the polluted. The dream itself is polluted by the spirit. And also what you hear the voice also polluted. Right. So again, so now, that's why we do the purification practice, Jama practice, to give the torma, torma cake, ritual cake, to give the torma to the, the spirit. We do it in a peaceful way, in a wrathful way, and all these things. Now, please don't disturb. I have given you the torma. I have given you the enough food. Please go away. Don't disturb any longer. We are doing this, right? So again, some may wonder, how is it possible? In the book, yeah, there's a story, I have no time to tell all these stories, So there's one sutra called "What Happened After Death." In that sutra, Buddha responded all this in that way. This is actually not a this is a person, this is the spirit, trying to create obstacles. Not only for the deceased, even for the family members, So therefore, the Java makes the Java matters, doing the purification matters. And then the second one is purifying the negativities, The ritual involves purifying the negativities, and that is done through the purifying the negativities is done through fire puja. Fire puja, we make the sesame seed in the form of the scorpion, and then burning in the fire of wisdom. We burn the fire of negativities, one's negative karma, in the fire of the wisdom. That is fire puja. Then also it is done through the, throwing the sesame seed, black sesame seed. Interestingly, the black sesame seed like this has the power to purify. In the Vajrayana, it calls, the power of the mantra, the power of the visualization, the power of the substances. This makes a difference in purifying. Right. Therefore, if you look into the fire puja, whether it is, sometimes we do fire puja, right? There are some substances, to burn into the fire. So this carries the, the power, some, power within them. And then finally is the purification of negativities is done through bath offering. Because in the bath offering, for example, then it is related with mostly of, for example, like 6 perfections. For example, so what we are purifying when we do the bath offering, the people take the rebirth in the hell, in the hungry ghost. Why take the hungry ghost? Mainly because of the miserlessness. Now, when we do the the purification, bathing purification, which involves giving away, because the antidote to miserlessness is giving away. So in the bathing ritual, we purify the stains of miserlessness. So that is how we purify. And then the finally is then the purification and pacifying the inauspiciousness. I'm talking about the ritual, that ritual, Jamava ritual, right? So purifying the inauspiciousness is now you're the person who does the Jama is now showing the path. You are in the pardo. Things are impermanent. Don't get diluted in the pardo. You are already passed away. You are in the pardo state. Don't get diluted. Still don't have attachment, clinging, and all these things. This will again lead to the lower rebirth. Now we are giving the path, spiritual path, giving the spiritual path, showing the spiritual path for the deceased. Then with the power of this, the disease, in some cases, the disease, the person in the pardo can hover around the ritual. And then, if the person while person is alive, when he was doing the Amitabha practice, we can do the Amitabha, showing the path, showing the right path relating to the Amitabha. Now that involves, sending the person to the Pure Land, creating the causes and conditions to make the disease take the birth in the Pure Land. If the person has practiced that, Matriya, then we can, do the practice. We can dedicate the practice to take the birth in the Tushita, which is the Buddha Matriya's Pure Land. If we, person is a practitioner of, Amitabha, then we, create causes and conditions to take the birth in the Sukhavati, which is the Buddha Amitabha's Pure Land, as well as, Munga, manifest joyful. We create the cause and the condition for the person to take the rebirth in the Munga, which is the Buddha Mitupa. Mitupa means sometimes we get confused, we will get the Akshabhaya, the same name, but we are not talking about highest yoga tantra one. We are the Akshabhaya. This is one Buddha, blue color, Akshabhaya. They take the birth in the Akshabhaya Pure Land. So even if you try to understand, if you do understand all these things, then we know what to do, right? Otherwise, what to do is very limited. So therefore, Jhama practice become really crucial, very important for to help the deceased. Then, then we may wonder if that is the case. Now what about? But so I'm also relating, questioning. I'm also answering to the question that I received. Right now, say, oh, wrap it up. Okay, yeah. So I think we have the time. Yeah, I think we have reached the time. Yeah. I will. Sorry, I will. This. What's that? Oh, you want me to answer? Okay. Yeah, I will answer. Yeah, I have two questions received. So so the important thing is what happened. Now the person has already taken the rebirth. The person has taken the rebirth. Maybe a person has passed away since 1 year, since 2 years, 10 years. Can we, if we do if we do some prayer for them, does it benefit? Yeah, that's the question, right? Yeah, according to the Buddhist teaching, it does help. It is not about tradition. It does help based on the authentic source. Authentic Buddha's teaching. It does help. If we just make the food like this and other things, but without without any motivation, then it's a questionable. However, if you do this for the benefit of the person, to dedicate for the person, it does help. How it does help? How it does help is, now for example, right? Now for example, the person maybe in, now person, for example, right, we are just using we are just using the example not to scare. Somebody may have taken the birth in lower and, for example, hell, right? Now the person created the karma to remain in hell for 10 years. For example, if we do the puja, if we do the if we do the powerful rite ritual, why the person remain in the hell? Because of the negative karma. Now what we need to do is to purify the negative karma of that person. How to do this? Then we do the purification practice. We do such a ritual, which involves purifying the negativities of that person deceased. In this way, when this powerful purification, with with the support and help of the powerful purification, the deceased person's negativity is purified. If the deceased person who is in the hell, the negative karma is purified, why the person has to remain in hell? Then because of your power of purification, the person who is to stay in 10 years is reduced to stay for 1 year, or maybe one, even for few days. It's very possible. So the power of the power of the purification, the practice and the ritual does help to reduce the sentence, to reduce the what we call as punishment or sentence, or to reduce the negative karma, to reduce the duration of the strength of the pain, the strength of the suffering, the duration of staying in the lower limb reduced to the minimum. So then the person dies and takes the favorable rebirth, right? That is not only for health, also hungry ghost, also animal. The animal dies very very fast. With the fast, we create the causes and condition to take the rebirth in the favorable rebirth, to have the favorable rebirth, to get into the favorable rebirth, to take the favorable rebirth. So that is how the power of the the prayers, the the prayers, the rituals, the purification practice, the accumulation of the merit, all this works, So, for example, the purification practice like Tharifa confession, Vajrasattva, and reading the Dhammapada Sutra, these are powerful. And then there's a as I said, there's a purification also relating to the Buddha, the Akshabhaya, By doing this, it really helps, to exhaust the negative karma of the deceased who is in the lower realm. It does help. With this, the person is then able to take a favorable rebirth in the Pure Land, or into some extent, to the Pure Land. It is very possible. Right. So I think what's she said? Wrap up. Did you go? I cannot hear. Yeah, you tell me. Yeah, I can hear.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Okay. So on your last point. Okay, so on your last point, can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Okay.
can hear. Yeah.
And let me ask you and then translate, okay?
Yeah.
Because I'm in the dual mode. So on your last point, when someone passed away and already take a rebirth in a lower rank, right? Then all your prayers, your jangwa or purification methods, with dedication, whether it's through yearly ceremonies or whether it's through special prayers, all of that you can dedicate to the person, because you never know where they end up, right? They may be in hell, they may be in the animal realm. So we do that, and it definitely would help.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and also some kind of in there's one tradition called making the five sense object, offering the five sense object, so that this is also helps person to, in case the person is in the some poverty, so it helps to create the merit for to have more resources, abundant resources.
Mọi người có nghe không ạ? Dạ thưa Trang có mới hỏi thầy thêm về cái vấn đề mà cái điểm mà thầy mới giải thích là một khi mà cái người thân của mình mất đi thì mình không biết là cái người thân đó tái sanh vào cái cõi nào. Nhưng mà cái câu hỏi là mỗi tháng, mỗi năm, hay là có những cái trường hợp đặc biệt mình làm những cái nghi lễ để mà thanh tịnh hóa tẩy nghiệp cho những người đã quá tản, thì cái điều đó thầy nói là sẽ giúp ích rất là nhiều, là tại vì nếu mà trong cái trường hợp mà cái người đó mà quá lãng vào cái cõi địa ngục hoặc là những cái cõi thấp, thì qua những cái sự thực hành thanh tịnh hóa đó, mình có thể giúp cái người đó tái sanh vào một cái cõi cao hơn. Thành ra là cái đó là trả lời cái câu hỏi. Và thầy nói là có những cái nghi thức mà bên mật tông họ có thực hành để mà giúp cho những người này. Thì thầy đã giải thích rất rõ ràng về cái nghi thức mà trang hoa, và cái đó là cái Madhara mấy năm trước là mỗi năm mình cũng hay làm cái nghi lễ trang hoa đó vào cái thời điểm mà lễ Vu Lan để mà giúp cho những người này.
And also, yeah, the things like, you know, the tsatsa and, you know, there are many, you know, for example, in the 9 preliminary practice, you know, yeah, these are also powerful 9 preliminary practice. And also, yeah, 9 great prayers, all these, you know, powerful. We have, you know, the things like making tsatsa, right? Tsatsa is also very powerful for, you know, liberating from the lower realm. Tsatsa practice. Yeah, and also reading the sutra, and, you know, sutra. Yeah, sutra readings, all these things are powerful. So it, yeah, it helps to purify a lot of negative karma the person has created. And yeah, yeah, mainly tsatsa is also very powerful, you know, tsatsa making. Because we cannot build the stupa, right? Because stupa, you know, it costs a lot of money. So, you know, doing the tsatsa also, we are very equivalent, yeah, to making the real stupa. And also, you know, the painting, you know, gold painting, like all these things are very powerful. And also, you know, what makes a huge difference, also the motivation involves. So yeah, these are the, you know, some of the practices which really help the, you know, deceased who may have taken the birth in the part of, or, you know, the lower limb. Okay, done. Okay. Oh, yeah, I will end up, yeah, here. Yeah. Oh, we say with the Nigeria state to make the image of the two management of the country, of the center region. So what they can do, the Namasa Italy. Do what you can mother about a sada give what you jump about each other, can but the Kundu Sampo, they have to check that to get just the logic. You are the that, Geraldo. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining the class.